Welcome to the session which is called Managing Generation Z, what we all need to change in order to lead young professionals to success. I hope you joined the very first hours of the Women Tech Global Conference. I personally can't wait to see all the other sessions. And I really hope that the session which we're going to have with you today is going to be useful, it's going to be practical, and come out with some inspiration ideas for yourself. So let's start straight away. So my name is Ina. I'm the head of support in Revolut. I'm an experienced people manager, and I can say that I'm definitely extremely passionate about the whole concept of managing people, how to help them grow, how to make them successful. And at this moment, I'm managing a team of 400, more than 400 professionals working in customer support in Revolut. And in general, I've seen a lot of different generations. I know how much it's important to adjust to every single employee. And based on my previous experience, I can share with you some of the very practical things which you can use in your day-to-day life. Just to give you a heads up straight away, I'm not Generation Z, I'm Millennial. And I'll try to, within my session, I'll try to compare those two generations from this angle. So, who are the Generation Z? Who are they? We are currently experiencing them just entering the early workplace environment, and there's still not very specific definitions, but I prefer to use the one which is specified by Pew Research Center. So you can use see in the graph different generations which we're experiencing in the 20th, 21st century. So it was starting from the silent generation, baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, and Generation Z. I can see right now in media and press, many times journalists, they actually mix in those two generations, millennials and Generation Z. We need to distinguish them because as a millennial on my own, I can say that my personal view, my personal vision and work attitude and expectations from work are very different from what I see from young people. So Generation Z are those who are currently at their early 20s. So they would be fresh graduates from universities. Some of them might be still even studying and maybe trying to combine their university life together with the work experience. So take a look at this graph. Try to find where you're actually standing. And let's move on to the Generation Z with the warm-up. So I have a question for you. We have a chat available in the session. So take a few seconds and try to think yourself. Imagine you have a Generation Z representative joining your company or your team. It's their very first day at work. It's maybe their very first job. They've never worked before in life. They're still fresh, they have a lot of energy, but they still need to learn a lot. So when do you expect them to expect the promotion for themselves? Try to think about any number which comes to your mind. It can be, 3 days, 5 months, 5 years. And if you can, comment also which generation you are representing. So write the timeline and your generation so that we can compare, do we have the same expectations or not? I can see we already have some of the first initial answers. Yeah, so I can see based on the chat, what we're seeing, there are two kind of groups. One group is talking about 1 year. Another group is more or less around 5-6 months. Oh, I'm so glad we have actual generation that's also present here. Generations. As soon as possible. Very nice answer. Okay, so let's move on and talk a little bit more about what their expectations are. As I mentioned, I'm personally a millennial. So for me, when I was joining a workplace environment, I had indeed expectations about future career. I was very ambitious. And my personal expectations were indeed it's within 1 year. So I need to join, I need to learn, I need to prove myself. And then in 1 year, more or less, it's going to be having some kind of revelation. This is how most of the companies are working right now. If you're working in big corporations, most probably there will be some kind of standards, how often people can get promoted. And 1 year, it's a standard which is brought, let's say, from the millennials environment. But Generations that are different. What was my surprise when I joined the company and I would start like working with very young people? Suddenly, like they started like coming to me saying like, "Hey, I'm already here for a while and I want to get promoted, and nothing is happening. Like, what exactly can I do to make sure that I get to the next level?" And when I checked those people, all of them were at the more or less on average 2 months in the company. For me, it was a surprise. I was like, okay, I might be not understanding something. Like, how can you expect to have a promotion after 2 months in the company? This is usually the very fair reaction of anyone who is representing like more older generation. I hear like some managers saying about the fact that generations that they have expectations which are not realistic, they're too ambitious, they cannot make the judgmental decisions and so on and so on, which many times results in some kind of negative image of Generation Z. What is important here, we cannot complain. Let's be honest, the generations are moving on. Right now, in the next 10 years, the Gen Zers are going to be the ones who will be ruling at the workplace. So we can complain a lot. We can talk about unjustified claims, but it's much better to accept the reality and adjust to that reality. So what can you do if people actually expect to get promoted in 2 months when you know that definitely the person is not ready? So my first advice to you would be create small steps for their career. Don't give them everything straight away. One of the solutions which I found specifically for my team is we decided to split the entry journey of the employees to several stages. So the first stage is definitely when you're onboarding. You're still in the training, you're, let's say, like this kind of 0 level. You're being in the education period. After you've completed it, you start working. But we give you a level which is called like level 1. So as a customer support agents, you join in, like, you know, what is your level 1, you start working, you already like do like as much as you can do, you're growing, you're increasing your results. After 2 or 3 months, there is a possibility for your manager to actually nominate you to get upgraded to level 2. In order to get upgraded, you need to have successful results on the first level. You need to pass additional training. You need to pass a small quiz and basically earn this level 2. On the level 2, we give you additional access, and we give you, for example, like a possibility to work a little bit on more advanced tasks. After 2-3 months, we have the next stage, level 3. So what is the difference? In reality, in the way what kind of job people were doing or how they were upgrading, nothing changed. It was exactly the same approach we used to have in the past. But because we introduced those smaller steps, checkpoints, which had very clear numerical names, which had like very clear process of passing like from one stage to another one, we were able to give people those checkpoints to evaluate themselves and feel that they're moving on. What I was saying is people consistently bragging about the fact that they get upgraded from level 1 to level 2. They were updating their statuses. They're basically like extremely happy about this progression. Such unofficial or semi-official steps are very important for people in these ages. They do have this kind of 2-3 months cycles in which they work. If for 2-3 months the person is like doing exactly the same kind of job and then nothing happens, they have this fear of missing out, also known as FOMO. Fear of missing out exists not only in social life, but at work as well. If you look at the Generation Z, this is the first generation which is like almost not working during teenage times. All the previous generations, they used to start working at a very early stage. And of course, when you're a teenager, you take any job you can. It's not gonna be fancy. You'll be doing something like very physical, maybe you'll be cleaning dishes or maybe like doing anything else. So whenever you get to the office environment, you do appreciate it. You find it like a fantastic opportunity for you. Generation Z has like a very small amount of people who actually start like joining the career in their early teenage. Most of them, they will have the very first job just like after graduating the university or during the internship. That is why they have nothing to compare. If they feel that their career is not growing, they'll start thinking, okay, what's happening outside? Maybe I'm too slow in the way how I'm growing. Maybe there's something much better outside. Maybe other companies are offering anything else. So you need to know that there is this kind of cycle that every 2 or 3 months, people need to ask themselves their questions. They will be naturally asking themselves questions. So for you as a manager, is the question, how do you make sure that you create for them an adventure? There has to be a very specific plan. You cannot just motivate people just with like speeches or emotional encouragement. Create for them a career path which can be like semi-formal, but should be like very clear for them like what they can do. Again, like from my previous experience, when we introduced those kind of 3 levels of responsibilities, we were able to, let's say, get rid of the problem for half a year. After half a year, I started getting people coming to me saying like, well, I've reached the maximum. There's nothing more like which I can do in this career. I'm already on the maximum level I can be. Of course, like 6 months, you're just getting exactly on the trend. So what we had to do after that, we introduced, of course, the official promotion, which can happen more or less like after 1 year, 1.5 years, which like when you do make a full shift in what kind of job you're doing. But there is another trend, which is related to Generation Z. You might know that right now people complain about the fact that due to social network, due to the internet, most of the current people have very short attention span, meaning that they cannot do one job like for a really long time. It comes from the work as well. What I find out is if you give a Generation Z representative one job, it's going to be exactly the same task, no matter how advanced it is. But if they will be doing it consistently from one day to another one, they'll get bored. One of the main rules for Generation Z, there has to be no single duty positions. You cannot have the position which requires you to do exactly the same job again and again. The way how we try to work with this part is, for example, like for customer support agents, we have them the core job, which is, of course, speaking with our customers and helping them out. But then after 6 months, we start giving people additional responsibilities. It can be 5% of their time. It can be 10% of their time. But we ask them, okay, can you help us to review the new product? Can you help us to write the frequently asked questions for the customers? Can you help us to make any kind of additional analysis? And if you give to people different tasks, which is like extremely important, because if you give everyone exactly the same task and they have like this kind of 2 tasks which they're doing like within daily duties, they will still feel it's like one single duty. They need to feel exceptional. They need to feel the progress. So make sure when you're creating this kind of list of tasks for your team that you're having this kind of diversity. Your employees within this young generation need to feel that they're not doing just like one job. They have something special, something additional. This is what's going to get them motivated. This is the area that's going to get them excited, and they will always have something to learn. Again, this generation is extremely energetic. They are very ambitious. Like you can get a lot from them as long as they're motivated and they feel encouraged at work. Another part, which is very important, they're looking at their job and meaning. You need to make sure that your company or your team, you do have a mission. It has to be extremely highly ethical. If you think about the 20th century, people were ready to work on any job. It's a job, like you need to earn money. This is like why you go there. A generation that they don't care about earning money that much as long as they have the meaning in their life. You need to invite them to join, let's say, a good side. Your company has to bring the value to the world. You need to be very open about this value so that when people will be coming to your office or to your company or to your team, they will feel that they're changing the world as well. If there is no meaning in their life, they will pretty soon like start thinking about moving out to another place. Generation Z is a generation which has like very high level of depression. We've never experienced it like with any other previous generations on how you're young and early this state comes to them, because they're like very sensitive in their emotions. They do have high expectations about the positive aspect of the life. That is why the job has to bring them this positivity. They have to be feeling like they're on this good side. You need to, again, like a lot of the companies, they have the missions. Like if you go on almost every website, you will see a lot of the statements like this is our mission, like those are our values. Those are not the words. You need to believe in them. You need to promote them, not only externally, but also internally, so that everyone is aware what kind of culture we are creating inside. If there's going to be a live cultural values inside your company, inside your team, this is what's going to make the people feel connected with each other. Because emotional connection is a very important part. First of all, like this is a young generation, which is still like early graduates or like still like studying. What they expect from the workplace is this Erasmus style environment. In the feeling, they don't expect just like to find a desk and a computer. They want to find social life. They want to find friends. They want to find entertainment. They want to find emotions. So if you will be able to create within your workplace a possibility for your employees to socialize. This is like what you can select from a lot of different corporations right now. You have this kind of kitchen areas, you have sofas, you have PlayStations, because people need to find friendship at work. If you're going to have your employees getting strong connections with each other, they will value your place of work, not just as a company where they earn money, but actually a place which gives them additional meaning. And a very interesting aspect. The generation that they were born like when there was already technology in place. They're like really great with technology. And you can see that for them, it's much easier to communicate with each other over chat, over written communication rather than the oral. That is why some people have the assumption that that generation prefers this kind of written communication. But in reality, they value much more the oral communication with their managers. So if you're managing Generation Z, make sure that you have consistent meetings with them. You need to show that you care. Very typical question which you see right now in modern questionnaires, like, does my manager value me? Do I feel like my manager cares about me as a person? Because those are the expectations of the young workforce. They want to feel that they're there not just like one piece of the whole big mechanism, but they're actually valued as a personality. So as a manager, you need to make sure that for this like younger generation, you give them much more attention. If you provide a consistent feedback, you can keep them like driving and moving forward, and try to go much more for the oral feedback, because the communication skills, which are like live, which are not written, they're much more valued right now because not so many people actually have them. So if you as a manager can provide the proper oral feedback, a proper oral communication, that they would value much more than if you would just like write them a message saying like you're doing a great job. Another part is definitely flexibility. Again, like we are not talking about people who treat job as just like 9-to-5 place. They want to have a job become part of their life in a good way. So they want to spend time at work knowing that this is like a meaningful part of their life. That is why try, if you can, based on your operations, make it as flexible as possible. We can see this trend right now happening all around the world. Talking about flexible working hours, talking about possibility for people to adjust their work time. A lot of people, especially if you're talking about A players, like those like the brightest minds which you will see joining your company, they do need to have some kind of additional flexibility. You don't need to guide them like too much. You don't need to give them like very direct instructions. You need to give them the challenge. They will be able to achieve it. They'll be able to get to the best progress possible. This is a generation which is very creative. So try to avoid unnecessary direct instructions. You can have the rules, you can have the guidelines, but try to give them the job. You should allow them to make their own personal decisions. And in this case, if you can trust that your employees are the best, they know how to do their job, you just need to care that they're actually delivering the results. Not so much about if they come at 9 a.m. or 9:05. To be honest, like there's not a very big difference. Of course, it depends on your position because sometimes you have to be there on time. But otherwise, try to see how much flexibility you can give to them. Because when they have flexibility, they feel like they're making their own decision to work at this specific moment. They make their own decisions to work this amount, to put this amount of energy to their work. Work from home. It's a new, like a normal, this is like what we see right now because of the COVID-19 situation. But people do have expectations that they want to have a more relaxed life. They want to have work and life combined. Even such things as working from the seaside, that can be a very good perk for the employees. And this is something that they will value a lot. And interesting research show about the expectations of people from the office environment. So when you actually come to the office, what they want to feel there, they want to feel there as at home. So we're talking about environments where they don't have to have a dress code. They can come in a cozy outfit, anything which makes them comfortable. They want to have, indeed, like a cozy office, some nice sofas, some place where you can relax. Why? Because that environment has to be safe. It has to be comfortable. This generation, they want, again, like they have expectations for their work very similar as expectations for their family. You can see right now a lot of the companies or teams are talking about the fact that we are like one family, because that is the desire, that is the goal to which people are leaning at that young age. Try to create, again, like this environment, they will feel like I am connected, I am valued, I don't need to pretend to be someone else, I can be myself. So definitely no hierarchy. This is a generation which literally doesn't understand the difference between the different positions. They would not value you just because you have a title of a director or anything else. You have to be there on their level. This is like why you can see like all those open spaces and people working next to each other, because any example of hierarchy, it actually leads to the, like another alternative, which can be discrimination. This generation, they value a lot the value of human being. They talk a lot about the fact that we need to give as much possibilities to every single person as possible. So in your way, how you manage the team, make sure you're not making those kind of strict hierarchical reasons in the way the person who is like held in the higher position is more important in the company than the person who's on the junior position. This is an environment which actually allows us to cooperate a lot, to share the best practices and grow over there. So no hierarchy is definitely the expectations, and something we should already need to forget as we move forward. And last but not the least, security. As I've mentioned, they want to feel comfortable, they want to feel safe. Interesting research which we've done internally in my team. We asked people about different perks which were given to them and try to understand like what things they value the most, what kind of perks they want to see and which are the most critical for them. Surprisingly, extremely young generation, the early 20s, that said that they value health and life insurance much more than the PlayStation. It's fun, they want to have games, but they care about their safety, about their future, which is like very inspiring for me personally. They care about how you treat them in the work-related environment, even the type of the contract which you're giving them. If you're given a temporary contract, they feel like you don't trust me. I want to be a part of the team here. I want to be a member of this family. I want to have long-term relations. So even like to ask yourself a question, are you actually providing the best contracts for your employees? Because it might be a minor thing like for the older generation, but for them it matters. You need to build the trust. You need to feel that they're safe and you'll be treating them as real partners in your journey. So overall, the best advice is, this is a generation which is still being forming. Like we still don't see all the aspects of them. So try to research, ask your people. They will be willing to tell you a lot of the information. Try to experiment. If it sounds too crazy, maybe do it like with a small group of people. Be consistently socially present. Be over there to speak with them. And interesting fact, if you want to attract this young generation, make sure you're working on their channels. It's going to be YouTube, where 85% of generations that are spending their time, Instagram and Snapchat. If you can see, there's no Facebook. Facebook is a platform for millennials. So again, like if you're looking for this generations that to join your company, your team, make sure you're like present on those kind of platforms. I know that we are already running out of the time, and this is a topic which I can talk a lot about. So as we don't have like much time left, what we can do, if you are willing, you can join my LinkedIn profile, and I'll post there like a special post just about Generation Z. And if you have any questions or you want to share your personal experience or personal insights, feel free to comment there, and I'll be able to share my experience, maybe like answer some questions if you're interested. And surprisingly, if you've seen, based on the first initial question, we were asking about what is expectations, actual generations that like were the most closest to their actual expectations about like just a couple of months before they get promoted. So thank you very much for joining. I really hope you're going to find some insights for yourself and inspiration, and enjoy the rest of the conference.